Hey, Salut Friends. So similar to Tom Ford's Beau du Jour, which I reviewed a few weeks ago and thought was the last standout release from that brand, I was looking at the catalog of the legendary house of Guerlain and tried to pick the last release that really stood out for me. I have talked about how the house has evolved since the acquisition by LVMH here and there. Lots of changes have happened with regards to the kind of releases, the quantity, quality, frequent change of presentations, renaming. There's also discontinuations, reformulations, change of perfumers, price increases, a ton of flankers, and many other factors. So going back from 2024, that's the most of what I saw. Lot of petite robe noire and some low medial flankers, many super expensive special editions which most of us won't get to smell. Maybe three stood out for me. Habit Rouge Privé, this leathery take on the original EDT. Shalimar millésime releases, which have been quite popular. I like the Tonka myself. And Neroli Vetiver from the Aqua Allegoria collection, which was alright. There was Encens Mythique from 2019 in the Absolute d'Orient collection, which was good, especially for an original release. Then for being an exclusive line, there was also a ton of new releases in the Matière collection. Just before they did the presentation change from the rectangular bottles to these heritage squared bottles in 2020, there was this underrated release which stood out for me, and that is Iris Torréfié. The arts and materials line tends to focus on one material that the perfumer likes to highlight and build around them. It started off with more vanilla focused scents like Spiritueuse Double Vanille, Tonka Impériale, Bois d'Harmonie, Angélique Noire and Cuir Beluga, and then focused on florals like Rose Barbare and Joyeuse Tuberose. For the most part, they have been of high quality and well made. Maybe not as exciting as other designer exclusives, but still good nonetheless. Now recently they have been all over the place doing ouds and such. As for the house in general, of course there was Guerlain and some other releases before, but I also noticed that they have been mostly sticking to their traditional style till 2019. Everything seems to have really changed since then. I suspect if it has something to do with the change of the CEO, Véronique Courtois, who was also in charge of revamping Dior fragrance division before this. So coming back to Iris Torréfié, this was a 2020 release created by Delphine Jelk, who I think is pretty much the perfumer for all new releases at this point, with Thierry Vasser acting as a spokesperson as well as taking care of materials procurement and preservation of the legacy releases. She had some good releases like I mentioned, but overall has been haphazard. This, however, I think is really good. Coming to the scent profile, this obviously focuses on the note of iris or orris. As with straight up fougere, it also seems like Guerlain did not have a lot of iris scented fragrances among their classics, though it's been a recurring supporting note, especially in those like Vol de Nuit and April Onde, and part of the classic Guerlainade. After 2000, we had Iris Ganache, Insolence, the new Iris Pallida Extrait, Shalimar Parfum Initial, Millésime Iris, and so on. But I myself still prefer this. That is as far the modern releases go. Now about the smell, this starts with a rather short-lived bergamot in the opening, a little touch of smooth cardamom, nothing particularly sweet or overtly spicy. Then after, it is all about the iris and the musks. They also indicate coffee here. In fact, in the name, the adjective torréfié, meaning roasted, is synonymous with torréfacteur or coffee roasters in France. So the name loosely translates to roasted iris. As a note, I was a little concerned as it sounded trendy to be added in a fragrance within a collection as traditional as this. However, I do not get an obvious sweet coffee note here like you would find in Follow by Kerosene or Awake by Acro. It is more like a whiff of black coffee being roasted at a distance a few blocks away. Nothing lactonic either. If anything, the iris itself is what comes across roasted with the warmth and wafts of bitterness in the air. There is also ambrette or muskmallow with substitutes for musk. The combination of iris, ambrette and cardamom immediately reminded me of Dior Homme Intense and even the original EDT to some extent. So it is done in that understated smooth style without any obtrusive notes. Says a lot when a Guerlain exclusive is seemingly inspired by this designer fragrance. However, Iris Torréfié goes in its own way after that. The ambrette here is obviously musky, vegetal, slightly sweet and earthy. Then there is the center of attraction with the iris, specifically Iris pallida. Here it is buttery, earthy, rooty, vegetal, powdery and suede-like, very textured. I feel like there has to be some real orris butter in here. There is also this dryness and bitterness in combination with the ambrette. A touch of sweetness comes through from the vanilla. It also has this lipsticky, cosmetic-y facet, which also makes me think of violet, which is usually used in this kind of combinations. Apparently the inspiration for this is that of a chic woman sipping coffee at a Parisian cafe with her lipstick on. I do get that image here. This warm floral ambrette backed iris is really the pivot of this fragrance for me. All the other elements are working to spotlight it. Now as the scent dries down, it starts to become more powdery. The bitterness and nuttiness remain, contrasting the buttery nature of the orris. This roasted quality is also present throughout. This may possibly be from the tea that they mention, but I don't get the smell of tea overtly. A soft, pliable, suede-like leather also comes through, which complements the musky iris. Additionally, some creamy, tender sandalwood. Nothing in your face or smoky. Colors of grey and purple are what I get. At the end of the dry down, it is mostly the musky iris backed by that soft leather. There is also some smooth, sort of nondescript woody amber as well. This is pretty much what is left by the end of the wearing. The performance is good, lasts 8 hours or so for me. Overall moderate projection. It also feels rather stable with its diffusion. It is one that I seem to get wafts of more frequently when I think of another average scent. As with iris fragrances, I think it is dressy, elegant. So it's going to be more for formal, semi-formal occasions ideally. Maybe not too serious, cold or aloof like Iris Poudre from Frederic Malle or some Chanel's, but still has that playfulness because of the coffee. More optimistic and gregarious. I recently featured it in my list of neoclassical fragrances, so it has some retro vibe with the iris, which also makes it classier. In terms of seasons though, I think it can be worn year-round, night or day. Comes across unisex to me, at least as someone who is comfortable with wearing iris. The biggest drawback here is going to be the price. I bought this off of someone in 2021 and even then I was not willing to pay retail. Now it is 325 euros for 100 ml. I would never pay that kind of price personally for 99% of the fragrances. So careful due diligence is required. The scent overall has this steamy, warm, enveloping outlook to it. At the same time, it is not flowy, cozy, relaxed sweater during a holiday. More so put together, well-ironed, sharp collars, sophisticated, let's keep going with the events of the day kind of mood is what I get. Some of the latest creations from Guerlain and Delphine come across rushed, but this feels rather well formulated and intricate. It is like they took their time before putting it out. I think it is a best work, to be honest, one of my favorites in this collection. I almost call this the last memorable release from Guerlain, but it is not the case. I don't see it being talked about that much, so kind of underrated. In fact, there are rumors of it being discontinued. Seems like clients are more attracted toward the vanillic scents in this collection. In spite of that, they discontinued Tonka Impériale. So if that can go, anything can happen. Personally, I'm fond of this one. Think it's beautiful. One of the better iris scents in recent times. And as for me, the most noteworthy Guerlain within the last 5 years. So there you go, my thoughts on Iris Torréfié. Thanks for watching, take care and ciao.